This isn't a rumor video. There's no fake confirmation, no clickbait claim, no edited screenshots. What you're about to hear is the real story, built from timing, industry behavior, and quiet signals most people overlooked. Because when SB19 and Bruno Mars were suddenly mentioned in the same conversation, it didn't start with fans. It started with creators. And that changes everything. Before we break this down, like the video, share it with an A10 and subscribe. Because this story goes deeper than headlines. This story didn't begin the way most rumors do. There were no viral tweets, no edited screenshots, no fan pages trying to force a narrative. In fact, most people didn't notice anything at all. Because this didn't start with excitement, it started with observation. A few fans quietly pointed out something unusual. Posts connected to Bruno Mars's upcoming album appearing in the timelines of people directly involved in SB19's creative process. Not influencers, not reaction channels. Pablo, SB19's leader, main producer, and creative decision-maker. And Bernan, the group's longtime vocal coach, deeply involved during recording periods. Individually, the posts meant nothing. But together, and close in timing, they created a pause. These are not casual listeners sharing music for fun. They are professionals who live inside studio schedules, production calendars, and creative timelines. People like this rarely engage publicly with major projects unless something personally or professionally connects. That's what made fans stop scrolling, not to celebrate, not to speculate loudly, but to watch. Because in music culture, the earliest signs of something real don't appear through announcements. They appear through behavior, subtle changes, unexpected overlaps, quiet alignment. This story wasn't imagined into existence, it was noticed. And that distinction matters, because observation invites analysis, not fantasy. That's where this conversation truly began. What made those posts stand out wasn't the content itself. It was the people behind it. Pablo is famously selective online. He doesn't repost trends. He doesn't engage in hype cycles. And he almost never shares content without intention. When he posts, it usually connects to something he's studying, building, or actively working on. Bernan follows a similar rhythm, especially during recording phases. His online presence tends to narrow when studio work begins, focusing strictly on vocals, technique, and sound development. So, when both acknowledged content tied to the same global artist, at nearly the same time, curiosity deepened. Because timing in music production is everything. Artists don't consume music randomly during recording periods. They listen with purpose, they analyze references, they study direction. That's why industry professionals rarely repost major artists casually, especially when new albums are involved. A repost can be many things: inspiration, respect, alignment, or quiet acknowledgement. In creative culture, this is often how early signals appear. Not loud enough to confirm, but visible enough to be noticed. It's communication without commitment. A way of saying something is being observed or explored without saying anything at all. That's why fans didn't react emotionally. They reacted intellectually. Because when patterns form around timing, roles, and behavior, coincidence becomes harder to assume. And that's when curiosity turns into investigation. This story carries weight because Bruno Mars isn't just a global superstar whose name happened to appear in the same conversation. He carries Filipino blood. His mother was Filipino, and throughout his career, Bruno has never treated that as a footnote. He's spoken about it openly, proudly, and repeatedly. Not as branding, not as strategy, but as identity. When Bruno performs in the Philippines, the atmosphere feels different. It doesn't feel like a tour stop. It feels like return. He speaks about family, about heritage, about where part of him comes from. That's why his name changes the meaning of this story. Because SB19 isn't simply another pop group seeking international validation. They represent a modern Filipino movement. Artists who built themselves from the ground up, who write their own music, who carry local identity into global spaces without dilution. So if a connection exists, in any form, it wouldn't feel random. It would feel symbolic. A bridge between generations of Filipino artistry, between diaspora and homeland, between legacy and evolution. This wouldn't be about clout or numbers. It would be about recognition. The idea that Filipino talent doesn't only inspire the world quietly, it belongs at the table shaping it. That's why this rumor feels heavier than excitement. It feels ancestral. Then came the moment that changed the tone of the conversation. During an interview, Stell said something simple, almost casually. "We are working on new music. It's a collaboration with an international artist." No dramatic pause, no name drop, no teasing smile. And that's exactly why it mattered. Because SB19 doesn't speak loosely. They don't hint for attention. They don't float ideas that aren't already in motion. In the music industry, statements like this aren't made unless contracts are discussed and work has already begun. And the absence of a name wasn't suspicious. It was expected. Early disclosure violates NDAs. It risks label conflicts. It can cancel projects entirely. Artists are trained to speak carefully. And Stell's wording reflected that precision. What mattered wasn't who he named. It was that he confirmed something global was happening. And the timing couldn't be ignored. This statement surfaced just as fans were noticing those quiet industry-linked posts, turning curiosity into structure. At that moment, this stopped being emotional speculation. It became logical investigation. Because now there was confirmation of an international collaboration, even if the identity remained protected. This was the pivot point, where imagination stepped back and evidence stepped forward. When people hear the word collaboration, they usually imagine one thing: two artists, one song, shared vocals. But in the music industry, that's only the surface. Real collaboration often happens long before microphones turn on. It can mean songwriting sessions where ideas are exchanged but names never appear on the chorus. It can mean melodic shaping, vocal layering, harmonic structure, or arrangement direction. Sometimes it's production influence, changing the emotional tone of a track without ever stepping into the spotlight. Bruno Mars is known for working this way. His music is built inside tight creative circles, small rooms filled with writers, musicians, and producers who shape the sound quietly before the world ever hears it. Not everyone involved appears publicly, and that doesn't lessen their importance. In fact, many of the most impactful contributions in music history were invisible to the audience. That's why assuming a collaboration must mean a public duet limits understanding. If SB19, particularly its production side, were involved, it could exist as songwriting input, arrangement collaboration, or creative sessions contributing to direction. That kind of collaboration isn't meant for headlines, it's meant for trust, because visibility comes later, influence comes first. Not all collaborations are designed to be seen, but they are always felt. While fans focus on artists, the real architecture of global collaborations is usually built elsewhere. Inside management. One Entertainment has been expanding beyond local boundaries, not through loud announcements, but through structure. International songwriting camps, cross-border producer connections, strategic creative partnerships that operate behind the scenes. This is how serious global collaboration begins. Not through direct messages between artists, not through viral trends, but through aligned teams speaking the same creative language. In today's industry, labels and management often initiate conversations long before artists ever meet. They exchange catalogs, they recommend producers, they connect songwriters. That's where doors quietly open. And this is where SB19 holds an advantage. They aren't just performers managed by a company. They are creators working alongside their management, especially Pablo, who operates comfortably in producer environments. That makes One Entertainment's network more valuable. Because when international teams look for collaborators, they don't just ask, who is famous? They ask, who can contribute meaningfully? Big moves don't start on social media. They start in emails, in studios, in rooms the audience never sees. By the time something becomes public, it's already been real for a long time. There was a time when a story like this would have felt unrealistic. Not because SB19 lacked talent, but because they were still being seen through an idol lens. That has changed. Today, SB19 operates as creators first. They write their own music. They participate deeply in production. They shape sound, structure, and storytelling, not just performance. That shift matters. Because international artists don't collaborate with idols for image. They collaborate with creators for value. SB19 understands modern pop architecture, how melodies travel, how emotion is paced, how music connects across cultures without losing identity. Their global performances reflect that maturity, not imitation, not excess, but control. They move with intention. That's what separates artists who chase opportunities from artists who attract them. SB19 isn't knocking on global doors anymore. They're walking through doors that open because their skill justifies it. At this stage, collaboration isn't about exposure, it's about alignment, shared discipline, shared respect for craft. That's why this possibility doesn't feel sudden. It feels like the natural outcome of years spent building quietly, until the moment the world finally meets them at eye level. If something meaningful is happening, the obvious question remains: why hasn't anyone confirmed it? Because in the global music industry, confirmation is the final step, not the first. Before that come layers of protection. Non-disclosure agreements restrict what artists can say. Labels must approve messaging. Album timelines are guarded months, sometimes years, in advance. One early statement can collapse negotiations entirely. That's why silence isn't uncertainty, it's protocol. Artists are trained to speak around projects, not about them. That's why names aren't mentioned, why language stays careful, why answers feel incomplete. This isn't avoidance, it's discipline. And that discipline is often the clearest sign that something real exists behind the curtain. Because if nothing were happening, denial would be easy. Instead, what we see is balance. No confirmation, no rejection. That middle space is intentional. In the music industry, silence doesn't mean absence. It means protection. It means something is being guarded until the moment it's ready to stand on its own, without risk, without interference, and without compromise. If this connection is real, in any form, its impact would reach far beyond a single song. Because this wouldn't just be about SB19. It would be about Filipino representation finally stepping into full visibility on the global stage. For decades, Filipino talent has shaped music quietly, as vocal coaches, session singers, producers, and background power behind global hits. Influential, but rarely centered. This moment would change that narrative. It would say Filipino artists aren't just contributors behind the curtain, they're collaborators at the front table, not invited for identity, but respected for craft. That distinction matters, because this wouldn't be a moment of hype, it would be a moment of arrival. A recognition earned through discipline, creativity, and years of building without shortcuts. That's why fans don't feel obsessive about this story. They feel hopeful. Hope isn't about demanding confirmation. It's about believing that the work mattered, that representation doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. If this becomes real, it wouldn't trend because of shock. It would resonate because of meaning. This wouldn't be viral. It would be historic. So where does the truth actually stand? Here's what we know. SB19 has confirmed they are working with an international artist. Industry-linked figures connected to their creative process, shared content tied to Bruno Mars' upcoming work. The timing aligns. The cultural connection is undeniable. Here's what we don't know. No official collaboration has been announced. No names have been confirmed. No public credits exist, yet. And that distinction matters, because responsible storytelling doesn't turn possibility into certainty. It observes patterns, it respects boundaries, and it waits for facts to meet timing. What's clear is this: something is moving. Quietly, carefully, deliberately. Not every story announces itself when it begins. Some reveal themselves only after the work is finished. The real story isn't whether this collaboration has been confirmed today. It's that multiple signals, creative, cultural, and professional, are aligning in a way that's difficult to ignore. Whether this unfolds publicly or remains behind the scenes, one thing is certain. This conversation isn't ending here. Because when movement starts this quietly, it usually means something meaningful is on its way.